Hey, Bison fans, add a little green in your wallet with the NDSU debit card from Gate City Bank. For every card ordered, Gate City Bank donates $10 to NDSU. Get your Gate City Bank Bison debit card today at gatecity.bank/Bison or instantly at any location. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life. Member FDIC. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank with the Forum's Jeff Kolpack. I'm Dom Izzo from WDAY. North Dakota State football is back this weekend. Missouri Valley Conference play begins as the Bison will welcome in the University of South Dakota. Before I get to anything, as we tape this on a Thursday, I'm going to get Bison fans all riled up, and you too, Kolpack, because I know you love watching football.
I can see it in your face right now.
Tonight, on ESPNU at 7 o'clock tonight, Jacksonville State is at Sam Houston in an FBS game. Two teams that North Dakota State has beaten for national championships. The Gamecocks and the Bearcats. You've been to Huntsville. I've been to Huntsville. Will host a nationally televised FBS game tonight, buddy boy.
You know, I'm done. I really don't want. Thanks. I'm just done with this podcast. Yeah. You start out.
I saw it on the
You
schedule.
start out with a right hook, and this is like down goes Frazier in one shot.
I know.
Down goes Kolpack.
It's just
right? I was having such a good
I
day.
know,
I mean, I went to my dentist this morning. Todd Debates. He's getting jacked up for the weekend.
Yeah.
He's going to the Hall of Fame with the '83 team, and the teeth look good, no cracks.
No cavities.
At your age,
good?
no,
All right.
nothing. Everything's good.
Let's go.
Wrote a column, went well, and then you just come and lay it in.
You gonna watch that tonight? You're gonna watch a little bit. You know you are. I am too.
How can you not?
Rich Rod and Jack State and Casey Keeler. Yep. Yeah, I know. It's disappointing.
I'm like that Oregon duck in the ESPN commercial, looking out at all the ducks having a good time.
That's exactly right.
I'll be watching and I'll be going,
Yep, that's exactly
I can't wait for Murray State. that WIU game is going to be lights out.
Back-to-back games in October. You mentioned about Todd Debates and his homecoming weekend.
Yeah, let's start there.
It's one of my favorite parts of actually is the Hall of Fame induction class. I will get on my soapbox for a second. It's 2023. We're 20 years now in Division I, and we're still on the Division II. Like the logjam, Kolpack, I don't know how much you know about the Hall of Fame process. I don't know a whole lot about it, but the Division I logjam is crazy here. Like we got to start moving the train here, don't we? And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking other Division I athletes that should be recognized that we're way
I don't know what you're going to do. I mean, it's the names. I don't.
Ben Woodside is now. He graduated. It was 2009. That was 14 years ago.
So he's a slam dunk first teamer.
Brett Winkleman is another first ballot Hall of Fame guy. Laura Hermanson, first NCAA Division I All-American. You know what I mean?
The first ballot. It's just.
I'm just wondering how we speed up the process here a little bit. We're getting. I'm not demeaning any of the Division II people, but I'm just saying Division I is 20 years into it. Where are we doing? When's your induction coming? Come on. You're 25 years plus into this. Come on.
Certainly, A, I don't care about those things. But B, certainly, ethically, there's no way. I'd decline. I'd have to decline.
Unless you get another beat, right?
Yeah. Until I start covering FBS football.
Right. There you go. Can I just read some of the names of the 1983 roster of
Please
the Bison football team? Jeff Bentram, freshman quarterback. Gary Barta, at that point, was a wide receiver, sophomore on that team. Stacy Robinson on that team. Dale Hammerschmidt, Doug Hushka, Tyrone Braxton, you may have heard of. A guy named Chad Stark, Todd Debates, Ken Kubis on this team. James Molster, you may have heard of. This is unreal, Kolpack. I mean, Paul Nielsen on this team.
I pulled up the 1983 signing day list.
Oh, wow.
February, second Wednesday in February.
When they used to do
10 names. And this was a philosophical change that Don Morton made as he put more money into better guys. And so the 10 names, this is the freshman class of 83.
Okay.
Kerry Meskey from Dickinson, Dan Close Hutchinson, Dave, I can't even read it because of the print. Ken Mucken from Monoman got a pro look, got a call, he told me. Dana Muhlhauser from Sandstone got a pro look. Paul Nielsen from Fridley, I'm not sure if he did or not. Really Jeff Bentram had a nice career in the CFL. Flint Fleming got a pro look. Tyrone Braxton had a nice NFL career.
A couple Super Bowls.
So
that was the freshman class of 1983. That was the
10. And it went to 24 players later.
Right.
But those are the 10.
Those are the first 10 that were announced.
Did my column on that. I wrote it this morning and talked to 2 assistants. So Mike Daly, who will be here, recruited Stark, and Mike Daly had just came to NDSU from South Dakota State as an assistant. So he was in Brookings watching Stark playing as a high school player, and he said it was rather awkward when he came to NDSU. Then he goes back to Brookings, where he knows a lot of people and it's kind of his homeland, and starts recruiting the guy, their own native son,
to go to
NDSU. And he said, I took a lot of heat in Brookings for that.
I bet.
And so, interesting story. And then Ross Jelseth, who assistant who recruited Jeff Bentram out of Blaine. The Blaine head coach then was Donovan Larson, who later became a Bison assistant, the late Donovan Larson. And one of the assistants on that team was Dave Nelson, who went on to Minnetonka, is the brother of Steve Nelson, who was a great Bison linebacker. So they had that connection. And he said that in Jeff Bentram, they wanted him as a junior, and they're kind of hoping to keep it quiet a little bit because a lot of teams were looking for throwing quarterbacks. That's when that started to become more in vogue. But the fact that Blaine ran the same split veer as NDSU, and the fact that NDSU was putting more money into some higher end recruits, and those two went on to star, not only play as true freshmen, they starred on that team, and that class went on to win 3 of 4 national titles.
Lost the 4th in a title game. Lost
arguably one of the greatest freshman classes to make an impact, I would say, compared to the 2010 class.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many similarities there. The difference is that class of Kyle Emanuel and Christian Dudzik won all 4. They won 4 titles. That class of 83, they lost on a unreal field goal.
Ted Clem
from Troy, was it 50-yard field goal, something crazy, as Troy won the national championship, win 3 out of 4. They lost one game in 1983 by 18-10 at Omaha. That was their only loss of the season that year. And they went on the road and beat UC Davis in the semifinals for beating Central State in McAllen for the national
beating
championship.
Davis was a big deal. And I remember
it was my guy Ken O'Brien was the quarterback at UC Davis.
Talked to Don Morton this week, and he goes, "Yeah, Davis. The thing about playing out there, the field was always mud, just mud. It never was nice, just muddy field."
This is a pretty cool deal. There are a ton of these guys that are already in the Bison Athletic Hall of Fame, but the team to be recognized, Kolpack, is its 40-year anniversary. That's a pretty neat deal.
Well, every national title team should be in, right? I mean, that's it's a slam dunk. And these guys, you got to remember, NDSU hadn't won a national title since 1969. The 70s was a drought. 81 got to the national title game, and Morton would tell you that set the stage for this team eventually breaking through in 83. But there was a drought there, similar to what 1990 to 2011.
Interesting you look at some of the names I just shake my head at, but there's also 2 others that football will go in. Tim Strehlow is still second all-time in touchdown receptions, which is crazy. I mean, second all-time still, and he last played in 1999. Is second behind the great Zach Braff.
Think about this as a running program, right? And look at the receivers. Stacy Robinson, Strehlow is a good receiver, really Christian Watson.
Urzendowski, Vra, those guys are outstanding players. And Jared Essler, Minot, North Dakota, who also was a great 6-time All-American in track, was a captain of the Bison football team. Had that huge interception in the 20 years ago, the win at Montana. He's also going to the Hall of Fame. Hey, what a crazy weekend he's got. He's the current coach at St. Michael Albertville. He's getting the
His
ceremony.
wife went in last year.
Yeah, so the ceremony is tomorrow. He's doing that, then racing back to the cities to coach, and then coming back up Saturday to be honored at halftime of the football game.
So he may be going 85 on 984.
I'm not trying to get him in trouble, but he's going to have a busy weekend. But this is one of my favorites. I love showing up and visiting with some. This all predated me, but getting to see some of these athletes get recognized with the ultimate honor. There's not a bigger honor than getting into the Hall of Fame, and they'll have that this weekend.
Yep, and it'll be at the Shack. So
Yep.
I mean,
And then at halftime of the game, they'll also be recognized on Saturday as well, which we're going to show a portion of that and just.
And we should add that we'll be having Todd DeBates,
Bentrum's
Stark
going to be
and Bentrum on our pregame show
Bison
Saturday
game
morning.
day, which I'm super geeked about. Benny is just one. I've only interviewed once, and that was, I think, the first or the second national championship. I know you did it when we were
those
down
guys
there.
were my era.
Yeah.
I mean, they were my college era.
That was, and it was a rarity to see him. I think may have been the third actually when they were down there in 2013. That was my first interaction ever, and it just people that generation hearing that Jeff Bentrum was here, it was a big deal, and he hasn't come back often. It's going to be a big deal with him in town this weekend.
A great thrower, but he wasn't really needed to throw in college, and I think he developed that as his career went on, and then certainly in the CFL he developed it even further. He never thought he would be a throwing quarterback in the CFL.
He broke Walter Payton's touchdown record. I mean,
I remember that.
Just crazy.
I remember that. It was up at UND, and the play before, I can't remember who it was, a Bison receiver. Oh man, it'll come to me. He had a clear John to the end zone, fell mysteriously at the 1.
So Bentrum then scored on the next play to set the record. Mysteriously fell down.
Yeah, just
Turf
tripped.
monster got him.
Tripped over the 4-yard line.
Up at Memorial Stadium in Grand Forks. Actually, now to the game this weekend as the 2023 Bison begin their conference journey with South Dakota. We'll get to the Coyotes here in just a bit. Bison went through non-conference as we went through last week, Jeff, at 3-0. Certainly seems now that the two of those wins look a heck of a lot better with Eastern Washington and Central Arkansas ranked this week. But now I'm intrigued to see how this team takes it into Valley play. Off a bye week and where they go from here. Relatively healthy. Look, maybe Nick Kubitz will be able to go on Saturday. I think that's going to be more of a game time decision on how this team goes into Valley play after, I think, they played 3 pretty good football games in the non-conference.
And I think the Valley has already separated itself into 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6 teams, and the rest. I mean, out of 12 teams, it's already been cut in half.
So the haves and the have-nots
we haven't even
already?
started yet.
Wow,
we haven't even started yet. With the case of NDSU, yeah, better than expected after 3. Didn't know about the defense. Obviously, I know we've hashed this over and over and over, but it's okay to hash it over because it was a big deal.
Question mark, yeah.
The secondary's been pretty good.
Yep.
It's been pretty good. Wisniewski has been unbelievable. Linebackers have been better. Defensive line, as expected, has been
better
older
too. Yep.
and better.
Yep.
Quarterbacks have been, the passing game has been much sharper. And it wasn't like Miller he was 14th in the country last year in completion percentage. Not like he was awful or anything.
Yeah.
He was pretty good last year. But it just seems quicker, more on point. He's over the middle more this year. He'll tell you that.
I think the diversification of the passing game, Bob Nielsen I talked to before we recorded this, the USD head coach, he said that when I asked him what stands out, what's different about the 23 Bison, he said that they are way more balanced now of what they look offensively. They are way more diversified in how they look on tape. And that's something 18 guys have caught passes. That's been readily evident in the first 3 games.
Again, I'll go back to the head coach. I think he told his staff that this has got to change a little bit. You have these players, you have these guys who have this ability. You need to use them.
Get him the ball. Yep. Eli Green being one of them. I know we're going to feature more on him on Bison Game Day. I know you talked to him as well. He had his best game as a Bison as well in the win over Central Arkansas. He might be that playmaker that I've been screaming about for the last year and a half.
Yeah, Cam Miller said this week that when Eli was a freshman, he needed to grow up. He kind of did his own thing, and Miller had a little chat with him, had a one-on-one talk with him, and said, "This is not how things go here." And I'll expand more on the pregame show tomorrow. But that's stuff like that. That's leadership, is what, and that's the stuff you just don't hear about. That's how you get good. Guys come in with ability, and a lot of teams bring guys in with ability, but where do you go from there?
Right. Is it either going to be wasted or are you going to use it to get better? And we've seen that. I mean, Eli was on point from the first play of the season. Granted, he bobbled it, but he caught that pass on a third down at U.S. Bank Stadium against Eastern Washington. That kind of got my attention. Okay,
great pass, by the way.
It was.
Right over the middle.
Put it right where it had to be. And Cam's been that way the entire season so far. He has 5 completions from setting the NDSU all-time record for consecutive completions, breaking Brock Jensen's record, which, frankly, I didn't think would ever get broke. That
was 22.
That streak that Brock had against K-State and Ferris State, I remember that vividly. It's going to take something else to break that, and Cam has an opportunity here this Saturday to do it.
Brock had the second streak, too, of 19.
Yeah.
So Cam's right now in third place. I thought Steve Walker was in there, but that must have been – I know he was like – came in against Northern Colorado.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't enough completions, but Walker was somewhere around that record, too, I thought.
Yeah, you're right. Steve was up there.
Yeah.
I'll have to look here as we go on our pod.
But Cam has a shorter quarterback, and he said he's had to adapt to this.
Yep.
He's 6'1", and a lot of times shorter quarterbacks have more issues going over the middle, and they just tend to throw the outs because it's easier for him. But I think this year he's figured out how to make that throw. And it doesn't come from by accident.
No,
you have to work at it.
They're making me work for this to try to find
forget
this consecutive. No, man, I don't. Well, here we go. Most consecutive passes completed. Walker is tied with Cam Miller right now at 14. Steve had it against Northern Colorado and Montana Tech in 2004. So there you go. You were talking about UNC. There you go. Came in that and then 4 straight completions.
I thought I was getting crazy.
There you go. He's tied for third. That's where Cam's at. The most Easton Stick had was 13. That was at Missouri State, November of 2018. That was a bad Mo State team. I remember that game was like 35-0 at halftime, if I remember right back then. So let's chat on South Dakota. This is a team that's 2-1, lost its opener to Missouri, had beaten St. Thomas and Lamar in the non-conference. I was visiting with Nielsen about this as well. It's a 180, Jeff, of how the season started last year when they had Montana, Kansas State, Cal Poly, the Bison, the Jacks, all to start the year. So they've had a chance, to be at home and get some confidence heading into this game on Saturday up here.
Well, this team's like a lot of Valley teams, and the non-conference schedule, like it is every year, is all over the map. You play a team or two you can beat. You play maybe an FBS, and you play a middle-of-the-road team. Well, these guys have played Missouri. Yep. They got their FBS, but in St. Thomas, not as potent as it seems last year, and it's a non-scholarship. Lamar is toward the bottom in the Sagarin rankings in FCS, so they haven't played a good FCS team. We don't know where they stack up against a good FCS team. We'll know obviously on Saturday. And with NDSU, I think they played better competition. Eastern Washington, is going to be proven to be better. Central Arkansas,
I think they're going to win that league.
I think Sean Derek Powell is incredible. I think he's going to be a Walter Payton favorite.
He'll be a finalist again. He was last year. He's going to be again in 2023. Aiden Bowen will make his 8th career start. He is the son of former St. Cloud State and Viking quarterback Todd Bauman, transferred in from Iowa State. He took the job after Carson Camp was benched at the end of last year. 6'5", left-handed, big dude, 245 pounds. He's still, from what Nielsen's saying, getting adjusted to the offense, finding his rhythm. And he's going to this is going to be a hostile crowd. It's homecoming. It's going to be loud, and this will be an interesting environment for the young man to throw himself into on Saturday.
Here's what I like about the Coyote offense is the balance. Yeah. Rushing a game, 149.7 yards per game. Yep. Passing, 151.7 yards per game. That's about ideal balance as a 50-50 as you can get. 301 yards a game, but giving up 292, that's pretty good. 13.7 points. But again, you go to their strength of schedule. Last year, defensively, they were toward the bottom, 29, 33 points a game, something like that.
Well, I point to Josh Davis as the new offensive coordinator who came in from SDSU right after the Jacks won. Davis was the passing game coordinator for the Jackrabbits, and now he is Nielsen's OC, which was in turmoil this time last year when the Bison played USD to start Missouri Valley Conference play.
Don't overlook this stat, and I know you're going to laugh.
Okay.
Net punting average.
Oh, you and your net
South
punting.
Dakota, 32 yards only.
That's not good. I know that.
That
I know
changes
that's not
field
good.
position.
Absolutely, it does.
And with Jaden Price, if he gets a couple returns,
Look out. That could be scary.
that's your
Yep.
hidden stat
All right.
for Saturday.
Here's the thing. This is not hidden. Defensively, over the last 5 games, USD's given up 48 points per game and allowed a ton of rushing yards. That, to me, is USD's front 7 ready to face against the Bison, now against even a different-looking Bison offense. That, to me, is where this game will be won and lost.
Yeah, seem to be better on the DN. Nick Gaze, 6'4",
Good player.
275. It seems to be a good player. Their linebackers are well
Webb is
noted.
good, too.
Yep.
91 is a good player, too.
Mogensen and Hillis are
really
two good
good.
linebackers.
Yep. But the Bison
Harden's a good corner.
Yeah, but the Bison have leaned on him, Jeff. That. USD has just, NDSU's done whatever they want up front and leaned on USD over the past 6 matchups.
Well, they're big enough. Their 2 D tackles are 300, but that doesn't
and
mean
they're both
anything.
6'7", too. They're both huge.
Yeah.
Their offensive lineman for USD, by the way, is huge. They have 2 guys that are both 6'7" up front.
The size, when you look at it on paper, it tells you is they're big.
Yes.
Doesn't tell you if
Can
they're
they
good.
move?
Doesn't tell you if they're powerful.
Can they
Doesn't tell
move,
you if they're mentally weak, if they're wussies.
Wow.
Are you injured or are you hurt?
Wow, listen to you going at it here. That to me is USD advanced at all to give any resistance to the Bison offense, because that has been, even last year, and you said it on our broadcast at halftime, that NDSU played a dreadful first half. They still came
One
back
of the worst.
and won the game by 17 points last year in the second half in Vermilion. That, to me, if USD can't change that formula, I don't see how this game has a different result than the previous 6.
Comes down to the quarterback. Quarterback's got to be good. He's got to play well. He's got to make plays. He's got to make third down conversions. And he hasn't really done it with his legs much. He's going to have to do it with his legs somehow.
You think so?
I
That's
do.
not his game. That's not his MO of moving around. This is not a Strehlow kind of guy that USD has at QB.
Well, you never know. If you scramble at the right time, you can make something happen.
I look at, Nate Thomas, they have back healthy, who missed all of last year. You pair him with Travis Tice, that's a good 1-2 combo. And off the fact the Bison had, as McFeely told us, 23 missed tackles against Central Arkansas, and that was an area of focus that the Bison hammered on during the bye week.
I don't know, but Travis Tice, who's he's got 49 attempts. He's their top ball carrier. Only 4.0 yards per carry.
Well, he's not the shifty guy. He's more of the bowling ball.
But that's not a lot against when you consider those 2 teams they
right.
played.
I
St.
guess
Thomas was okay defensively, but they went out to Harvard and got killed.
Yeah, and Lamar is not a good team. That would probably concern me a little bit more if we're not moving the ball as much as you could have against a Lamar team that's not going to give much resistance in the Southland Conference at all this season. So I'll be interested in this. This is the start of it, and we mentioned this yesterday on the Bison Media Zone show, and I'll do this before we look at some other games and wrap it up. They have won NDSU 12 straight league openers. It goes a long way to get off to a good start in Valley play. Just getting that first win, it helps. It goes away.
Lost its first 3 as Valley members on the openers, and then have won the last 12.
Yeah.
USD has played 6 of its last 8 openers on the road.
Yeah,
That's a schedule really
and honestly,
ironic
NDSU
twist.
has not played many conference openers at home to start either. I think it's only 6 out of
right?
13 that they've done at the Fargo Dome. More often than not, they open up Valley play away from the Dome. They did last year in the same spot against South Dakota to start 2022. So I'm interested to see. Good. It's going to be a great crowd. I think there's only a handful of seats available because it's homecoming. It's always kind of a juiced-up environment. I remember a couple homecoming games. Youngstown, when they came in, when it was 2-3, and the Bison pounded Youngstown that day. In Northern Iowa, I think the following year, they've had Northern Iowa a couple times on homecoming, and they've been classic football games. So there's always something about homecoming with NDSU, and I expect that'll be the case this weekend. Now, you made a very bold tweet on Saturday night after you were watching the games develop. You said there are 4 teams that can win this thing.
It's not that bold. What are you talking about?
But the 4th team is bold to me.
Idaho?
You had Idaho in there, who has yet to win a postseason game.
I think they deserve it.
Well, Idaho beat Sacramento State. You had Montana
And
State.
split its 2 FBS games.
And you had
That's
obviously
a tough
the 2.
schedule.
It is so far.
Toughest by far.
They should have beat Cal, honestly.
Toughest by far in the FCS, and I thought fared pretty well.
There was some news, I don't know if you saw it from our friend Craig Haley that posted this, and this is good for the FCS, that they will, in either late October or early November, the FCS playoff committee will release its top 10.
Oh, we're going back to that.
Yes. So we were not guessing. Remember last year, how often do people ask you, are the Bison a 3 or the Bison a 4? Well, at least we'll have some idea. Now, here's the caveat to this, though, Jeff. They better not do it until after the Bison Jackrabbit game. The Bison Jacks game is the first weekend in November. I don't want to see anything before then because it doesn't matter. What if the Bison go down there and win? That will then determine what your top 10 is.
Man, you're looking ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, if the news comes out, and let's just say if NDSU is 7-1 heading into that game against the Jacks, and they perform well or they win the game, that will totally.
I don't know why you'd put it out
10.
before 8-9 games anyway.
Right. I don't want to see it before Halloween. I want to see it after the Bison Jackrabbit game in November. I'm glad they're doing it though again. Even if it gets ridiculed and it's completely off. Like remember one year they had Sam Houston number 1. Remember that was a joke they did that one year. I'm just glad we're getting some clarity on what the thought process is of what they're going to do. Because too often than not we guess, and our bracketology is more on than sometimes what they're doing. You have no rebuttal to that?
We've been pretty good.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is sometimes like our seating is more.
No, I agree. I'm not going to sit here and agree with you all the time. I don't want to admit it.
You want to pick some games here
Let's pick them and go.
Before we get out of here? How about an Ivy League special for you? Columbia Princeton tomorrow night. ESPNU. Columbia at Princeton.
Well, it's got to be Princeton. I haven't even looked at the standings. I know nothing about the Ivy other than watching Harvard.
Yes,
it's got to be Princeton based on history.
I would agree. Here's a game I normally wouldn't give you, but there's some drama to it. 3 o'clock Saturday, Idaho State is at Montana. There's a lot of rumors out there with Mr. Hauken after the Grizz loss on the road at Northern Arizona.
Looked effortless almost at Northern Arizona. Very concerning in Missoula. I talked to one person I know who's really plugged in and wondering if the locker room's got some issues there.
I spoke with a couple people as well that believe this is it for Hauk. His contract is up after this year. There's
no renewal. What's that tell you?
They're going to move on after this season from
and
Bobby
Hauk. Here's the thing. They've fallen so far behind Montana State.
They have. They really have.
And that can't be acceptable in Missoula. It cannot. No. I've been there, 3 times? And you've been there.
Yep.
That's a pretty fervent fan base with some alums who care. And alums who care do not want to put up with this.
No. The biggest point you made was the first one. Montana State is miles ahead of them now, and especially how the Bobcats played Saturday. They won at Weber by 40.
Oh, just stomped them.
On top of the fact how they played at Brookings earlier this season.
The same week, same Saturday that Montana goes to a winless Northern Arizona
go to
team.
Flagstaff and get whooped. Yeah.
That got beat handily by UND.
No.
And boy, I watched Montana. Like there's no play there. There's just nothing there.
No,
we saw a highlight. Offensive line literally just gave up on a play.
No,
this quarterback's scrambling, and the offensive linemen are watching him.
It's not good. Let's see here. This is an interesting game in the CAA. 2 ranked teams. The only ranked matchup I think they may have for a while. William and Mary is unbeaten. They're at Elon. Elon's 2-2. The Tribe are 4-0.
I like the Tribe. Tribe, good defense, really stout defense. And until I see different, I'm going with Bill and Mary.
That's maybe their only real test on the schedule. They
Is that it?
They do not play any of that. They don't play Delaware.
Man,
they don't play Villanova.
How the CAA has fallen. It really has fallen, has it not?
It is, yeah.
It's just they've lost their top members, and then there's nobody else has really accelerated their program.
And the ones they've added are not good programs.
No.
They've added Monmouth. They've added Campbell. They're adding Bryant, adding North Carolina A&T. Those are not Those are not schools to help your league profile going forward. We're going to pick the game on Saturday, so I don't want you to give me the winner, but UND goes to Brookings. UND lost convincingly at Boise. Bubba Schweiger has come out publicly and said, this is a big game if we're going to be in the conversation, we either got to play well or we got to win at South Dakota State.
What was the stat? I'm doing by memory, and I'll get it mostly right. So in ranked teams, battle of ranked teams in the Valley, the home team has a 132-84 record, meaning 84 times the road team has won a matchup like this. That's a lot. So don't overlook UND.
Wow. Are you tipping your hand?
No, I'm just saying don't. I think it's going to be a pretty good game.
I would say I tend to agree. And if UND plays it close, it's more of an indication, I think, that UND is better than anything on SDSU. That's how I'll go with that. But it'll be a raucous environment down there. Big crowd coming for that one in Brookings. Don't forget, of course, we've got Bison Game Day coming up on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Jeff mentioned myself, Logan Campbell, Kyle Emanuel, of course, and we'll be joined by many Hall of Famers. Jared Essler is going to join us. Todd DeBates is going to join us. Chad Stark and Jeff Bentram will all join us coming up on Saturday morning. And then the kickoff show begins at 12:50 with the game at 1 o'clock between North Dakota State and South Dakota. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank.